Hello and welcome to the Outside the Cockpit Austrian Grand Prix post-race show. My name is Sam Donzig. I'm joined by Ming Truong and Alex Baumgartner, founder of The Intermission. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. I'm pretty good. It was like an exciting race, and I already called it. It's way better than Austrian Grand Prix for sure. So I'm very happy to see what's going on. Everyone's racing from every different type of level, from the midfield to the bottom tier to the top teams. Okay, well, except for Max Verstappen, just racing his own race. But
yeah, he was in his own world today. Honestly, he was just kind of like he was just full send after the first lap, and he was gone. He probably had to listen to music or something like that just to keep himself from getting bored or anything like that.
He got some nice song coming from all the fans in so from Grand fans. So, yeah,
yeah, like I know the McLaren fans really came out. I'm kidding. Obviously, it's the Dutch fans, but yeah, that was ridiculous how many people there was in the Red Bull fan zone or the Dutch fan zone, whatever it was called. They probably just need to call it the Supermax zone at this point because that was insane.
Yeah, I think there was about 100. They said about 132,000 people were in attendance. So again, another full gathering for like an audience, like for a full event, like a live event and stuff. But yeah, no, it was interesting because Lando Norris yesterday said after qualifying, it's like, oh, it's great to see all the orange and stuff, but not Max Verstappen, like all the Max, because there was like a mix of McLaren and like Max Verstappen fans. And
it was like 95% Dutch, and then like maybe like a couple people from McLaren. Well, look, the thing is, we saw today because Lando overtook Hamilton. Hamilton finished fourth. Verstappen once again won 2 straight weeks in Austria. Of course, the Max fans are gonna be excited because he's kind of running away with it a little bit. Now it's a little too early to call, but like it's getting there. Like last couple of races, what is it? 3 straight Verstappen won. Something like that.
It's been now 3 straight races that Verstappen has won. 2 straight, two back to back.
And then Lewis Hamilton doesn't even get the podium, and we have to look back to Baku. That one race, Verstappen was gonna win it. He goes out because Pirelli's tires decided to say, "I'm out tonight, boys." And then Hamilton, I don't know what happened. If he didn't turn off the brake, something.
Yeah, it was the magic button incident where pretty much his brake bias had changed. So it's like he pushed the button at the wrong point, and then it just messed him up. But yeah, no, I agree. If, like, for example, let's say for him, so like Max doesn't crash out and wins in Baku, that would have been then 4 straight races, and it is getting to a point where now it's a 32-point gap lead between him and Verstappen, or between him and Hamilton. Sorry. So at that point, it's like, yes, it's early to tell because again, Lewis Hamilton can still come back. But regardless, like, if Lewis Hamilton wins maybe like the next 2 races, Max Verstappen might still be in the lead, but it depends on where Max Verstappen finishes. So it's going to be exciting to, obviously we're heading to Silverstone and again a Mercedes home front. So we might see Mercedes win. We might not because Max was able to win one of the 2 races that were held there last year. But let's give our 3-word race recap. Let's start with you, Ming. What would you say in 3 words how to recap this race or describe this race?
I guess I'll say pit lane shenanigans or T4 gravel party or something like that. Probably like that because every time something happening in the in turn 4 gravels, something's happened. So I think it's something like that. But yeah, that's my words.
What about you, Alex? If you could.
I have 3 letters for you. FIA. Wow, those boys were busy today. Between Sonoda not knowing how to get into pit lane, with Chico trying to I don't know what Chico was doing half the time. Chico involved in 3 incidents today.
Yeah.
Raikkonen and Vettel, the 2 old Ferrari boys, going at it on the last lap, crashing out into the gravel. Lando getting the 5-second penalty. The FIA was busy today, and as Min said earlier, it was like a Codemasters game because every couple minutes there was another violation and another penalty from the FIA. So yeah, that was probably the most impressive thing I saw today. The FIA managing to make all these penalties in that one race. So yeah.
It felt like the Austrian Grand Prix in 2020, but like you amp it up like by 10 times. Like there's more incidents in turn 4, there's more penalties given out because it's only like the end of the lap, and then and then Norris still on the podium. So
yeah, no, exactly. It was very similar to the.
And then Lewis Hamilton was not, and then Bottas in the podium too. So it's just like it's just like an amplified version of last year, but fun stuff.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'd say for my 3-word race cap, it would be I'd say Max running away, as in running away with the lead. I think like he's now starting to Max like wins again. Like I'd say Max wins again. That's my 3-word race cap, because it seems that Max Verstappen is just kind of getting to this next level where we haven't seen yet, where he's now got a competitive car and he's beating Lewis Hamilton. They're faster than Mercedes. And again, like he's getting help from Lando Norris, because Lando Norris held up like Lewis Hamilton for a good chunk of that race. And he was kind of acting as a roadblock to just be like, okay, like I want to hunt down Max, but also I got to fight Lewis. And that really just like gave Max Verstappen like, okay, I can just go run my own race out in front. He just built a big gap, even to the point where he was able to pit twice near the end of the race to go on to soft tires again to get the fastest lap. So that would be my 3-word race recap.
That's gonna be funny though, because Lando took out Perez and then become the really needed teammate for Verstappen to hold up Mercedes. So like I feel like McLaren's been on it's been like that guy in the middle who always like might stop both of them at the same time, like with Bottas last in the Austrian Grand Prix when they report him for the spinning thing, and then now we're just like, oh, I'm gonna take Perez out, I'm gonna hold him up, and Max is like, oh well, thanks. It
was such a weird race in terms of just like what teams were doing, because Ricciardo had a really good race until like it was still a great race, but Ferrari's like, all right, we're gonna have to make the switch, so they let Sainz go in front, right?
Yeah, and
Sainz had the fresher tires, and Sainz was able to get in front of Ricciardo, but Red Bull, Verstappen once again runs away with the race, but Chico, he falls back a couple positions, gets the penalty, multiple penalties. It was just so many different things happening. Like Lewis Hamilton's car, we don't know what happened to it. You heard on the team radio, he said he was having troubles. Lando Norris thought he saw a fire on the brakes or something like that. So it was just weird. Like Red Bull wins, but then they also have where did Perez finish? 5th?
He finished 6th after the time penalty. So he still scored some. Yeah. Like he scored a few points and stuff for the team.
Yeah,
but the majority of points were coming from Verstappen.
And then Ricciardo slipped. Like Daniel Ricciardo slipped a little bit at the end, but he still like finished 7th, I believe.
No, I think he's
8th, maybe. Did he get that high?
No. He's probably like 7 because
Sainz overtook him. So, anyways, it's like Mercedes 2 and 4, Red Bull 1 and 6.
Yeah, Red Bull was 1 and 6. Sainz like finished 5th, and Ricciardo was 7th. Charles Leclerc finished 8th. So
yeah, so then McLaren went 3 and 7, and then Ferrari went 6 and 8. So it's interesting for the constructors what happened today in the race, just because like there wasn't a clear runaway team. It was like one drive. Like props to Bottas, because obviously he's the second driver on Mercedes, but he did what he had to do, and he's fighting for a contract because he definitely wants to stay in the Mercedes car. But someone I want to talk about who almost got his first career points was George Russell, who is someone that's rumored to potentially be taking over from Bottas next year. Lewis Hamilton obviously just signed that 2-year extension with Mercedes. So what does Mercedes do? First of all, let's talk. Sam, what do you think about George Russell? Obviously, the last 3 laps, he was overtaken by Alonso, but he, get Q3 in a Williams, and then just to try and fend off, one of the best on the grid, just like that. It's unbelievable. And George Russell's not overrated. All the people saying George Russell's overrated. To do that in a Williams is extremely impressive. And then Alonso went over to him after the race to give him a handshake just because of he applauded that effort. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and I would fully agree with you. I think George Russell is he's completely. I think for a lot of fans, they rate him at the right rate. They don't overrate him and they don't underrate him. They're like, okay, this is what he can do. The fact that he took a Williams and qualified P8 on a very fast track compared to other cars. Like when you look at the other cars that he beat out and stuff, yeah, he beat out like a Haas and. But he also beat out a McLaren. I believe it McLaren and Daniel Ricciardo, who qualified lower, and Carlos Sainz, who also qualified lower in a Ferrari. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, that takes some serious skill to be able to do that. And we even saw, again, like going back to the secure Grand Prix, what he did in that Mercedes and how he was able to beat Bottas. So clearly he can race as much, like he has a great amount of talent in racing. But I think that if Bottas continues to show up and, get high positions in second and third, it's going to be very tough for Mercedes to be like, why, like, what do we do? Like, they're in a predicament. And it's a very tough predicament. Like, okay, do you hold on to Valtteri Bottas, who's, doing okay? He's getting second and third, but he's not getting your race wins because Lewis is doing that. But they might not win the driver's title, like the Constructors' Championship this year. And if Red Bull does, then maybe they must, okay, maybe we do make that switch over to George Russell. It's a very tough, but I don't know. If Russell continues to perform and Bottas somewhat struggles in this later half of the season because we're coming close to the summer break, the second half of the season, then I think they would go towards George Russell to making that signing. But again, we've heard rumors and stuff that at the race coming up at Silverstone, they're set to announce this lineup. There's a lot of rumors. It's still unheard of, but that's my take on that.
Quickly before Min goes, like Mercedes, obviously George Russell, if he comes, he's not going to be the guy going for a world championship. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton. And when you're in this position, it's like, well, how many world championships has Hamilton won since Bottas has been there? He's won every single one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to, obviously, what happened with Rosberg, where it was Rosberg, Hamilton, they were really close back when those were the two racers and the drivers. So Bottas has been doing his job, as much as we know he hates being the second driver. He knows that he has to be the second driver, but he's done his job well. So does Mercedes want to ruin that? And looking at what Red Bull's doing right now, looking at what McLaren's doing with their cars, it's going to get closer. And, Verstappen's running with this thing right now. So that's probably the question that's going through Mercedes' head. Like, well, we have the foundation set with Bottas and Hamilton. So.
No, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And it's all come down to luck too, because like Bottas has really bad luck on that few races, as well as Bottas is just known to be not really good with wet races, but in like dry tracks he's really solid. It's just that all the thing that happened to him mostly just because of bad luck. And Baku, I don't know how to explain Baku, but but for George Russell wise, I think the reaction when he got to Q3 and when his engineer was like, he kind of choked up when he's like, it's P10 when going to the Q3. I think it's just like everyone excited. He's so excited to see just to come in. It's very unfortunate that he couldn't get P10, but that was a very intense race, just a catch up between Alonso and Russell, which is like a very intense battle. I was just loving that. I was just like you got this like entire midfield just fighting it out, and then you got the top like McLaren, like the Lando versus like the two Mercedes. And then Perez tried to come back, and then you have like this entire race between like George Russell and Fernando Alonso. And then you have whatever the bottom field is doing, but it's just that I think that at this situation right now, if Mercedes can take risks into saying and add George Russell in, but I think it's too much risk to do it right now. Either just going for a fresh restart for the next season, and then contemplate what to do next, or just not do it. I think it's just too risky at the moment, because you talk about like replacing entire drivers just for the hope that they can catch up to the champion, at least the Constructors' Championship, or like helping Lewis Hamilton, which is too risky. And Bottas has been doing a great job as a second driver, like Alex said, and I think it's just a bit on the nose now. I mean, they can just take that risk and go into like the whole like second driver dilemma like Red Bull had, but. They can take that, or they can just keep Bottas at the end of the season and see it, because the season hasn't finished yet. It's only like not even halfway through it yet. So
no, exactly, I'd agree. And I think as well, like when comparing it with the Red Bull situation, it's like Red Bull made a mistake. Like when they let Pierre Gasly go, and now he's like striving at AlphaTauri, and it's considered now that possibly he's probably going to go elsewhere and find success on a different team, and possibly like where the development goes for cars and stuff, he could win. Drivers' World title, but not with Red Bull, unfortunately, because Red Bull just made the mistake of like, okay, they forced him at a young age, and say they kind of forced him too early. He wasn't fully ready. There was a lot of pressure on them, and they did mention this on the pre-race show this morning, actually, about they showed a clip and stuff, but the Red Bull driver program and like the amount of pressure and stuff that you have if you have a poor performance and stuff. Dr. Helmut Marko will usually talk to you or won't talk to you and stuff. So there is a lot of pressure with that. So in terms of that compared to Bottas, it's like they don't make that error where if they do that, make that error, and then they like the next year, like, oh, well, we lost Valtteri Bottas as a great driver, but George Russell is struggling because he's facing all this pressure that he really hasn't faced yet because he was at Williams last year. So it is a big step to go from Williams to Mercedes.
Yeah, and with that win, Max Verstappen becomes the youngest driver in F1 history to reach 50 career wins, podiums, and he is only 23 years old, and I believe about 277 days or something like that. I have the exact. So youngest driver to get 50 podiums. The second youngest behind him was Sebastian Vettel, who was 25 years old. Now, obviously, we know Verstappen started young in F1. He's been here for a while, but nonetheless, it's an extremely impressive feat, and it's probably something you're never going to see again, especially because
the regulations.
The regulations, drivers can't come in at how young Verstappen was. But all credit to Max Verstappen, because ever since he was 14, 15 years old, racing not Formula One cars, but on different circuits, they knew he was going to be that guy, and it's a good time for him to win that first world championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think he's been considered also. He was like one of like the hottest karting racers and stuff, drivers coming out like from karts and stuff, all the way from karts that he was scouted and stuff to the Red Bull driver program, and he was kind of picked up and through there. And he was like really quickly pushed into the Red Bull program. And like when he was young and stuff, he was very hot-headed. He was very immature and stuff, but he's really well matured now, and he's changed and adapted, and he's become this, I'd say adult now. Like he's an actual adult. Like he's not a 17-year-old kid anymore racing against like other adults. He's a young guy still, but he's got lots of experience, and he's showing this year. He's got a competitive car, and I do really think that this is the year that Red Bull goes all in and wins, one title with Max Verstappen and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then you gotta know that he's just, when he was younger, he has a very, very bizarre driving style too. He's very aggressive. Sometimes it does help. Sometimes it doesn't really help for him. But I think that he still has that style with him, but he just had more experience and he's more confident with his driving. The fact that and a really good point when the Honda engine is at its best too, when there's no like engine failure like last year or something like that, where we kept him bad DNF or like not yet. Like I don't want to jinx it. But he's been really solid in the first few races, no DNF at all. I mean, except for the Baku race, which with the darkest timeline. It's a weird timeline, but
yes.
He's been showing, and this is like a very, very, very solid like season for him to be the world champion contender. And then so he's the son of Jos Verstappen, also an F1 driver, and a really good friend of Michael Schumacher as well. And you gotta know that he's probably gonna train his son well before he got ready for kart, even when he started karting and getting to F1 as well. So he's got a good chance.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, let's talk about, I know we kind of mentioned this earlier, but let's talk about the time penalties and race incidents. Do you guys think that the penalties given to Lando Norris and Sergio Perez, and then we can talk about the other penalty incidents that were kind of like later out, but the drivers failing to waive for the yield for the double yellow flags at the end of the race, but do we think that these penalties were fair to Lando Norris and Sergio Perez? Let's start with you, Ming.
I read a very funny article before the race. It's called "Is the penalty fair?" It's giving a penalty to Sebastian Vettel fair for because he was like trying to impede Fernando Alonso. But I think you can just argue a lot about that, but also we do see that he getting pushed up. I think the only thing that he's definitely like Sergio Perez did his last penalty. That's probably like the one that I think that he could get it, because you can clearly see he lost his control and then slide the car toward that side and push Leclerc off the track. But the other one, it's just very difficult to say. It's just kind of like Alex Albon and Lewis Hamilton, which I also call it in the pre-race show too. It happens, kind of. but I think it just kind of like it does ruin the others. Like Lando Norris kind of ruined the race for Sergio Perez, and I don't know what the hell Leclerc's doing, but it's kind of ruined his focus for a bit. But I don't know if it's really fair to say that, but I think it's just like I would prefer like maybe a drive-through or like a 5 seconds, probably a bit too intense, but. I don't know. It does it sounds it's had a lot of excessive, and then adding to the fact that there's a bunch of like pit lane incidents coming out too, make it very, very excessive. But I think it's just like it's that situation when Lando Norris already established that if you push the other person off the track into the gravel, you get a penalty. Then the next two incidents involving Sergio Perez is the same thing that happened with Leclerc, and then just like, well, if we don't do it, then they will argue about it. But then so might as well just give him the penalty and make people shut up. Like, okay, well, Lando did it, and then Sergio did it too, so got the same punishment. So I think it's just kind of like that. But yeah,
no, exactly. Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, like both Christian Horner and the team principal for McLaren, they both disagreed with their penalties and stuff. And I think it was hard racing at the same point. I'm like, me being a Red Bull fan, I think Sergio Perez just made the mistake of trying to take Lando Norris on the outside there, where he just ran out of track and he just kind of got into the gravel. And Lando Norris was taking the racing line. What is Lando Norris going to do? Go more inside and give Sergio Perez more track where he can overtake him? No, like he's going to race, and he's going to race as hard as he can without having to push him off. And again, it is kind of double standards where, okay, if you're going to penalize Lando Norris, then you have to penalize Sergio Perez for those incidents with Charles Leclerc. And again, they were very similar to those incidents as well. So I think it is double standards. It's fair, but I'd like to see where it's like there's not so many penalties and it's just hard racing. And I was upset with Sergio, with that Sergio Perez going out, but it's like, hey man, you're going to make that move, you're going to make the decision. There's consequences to decisions when racing
exactly.
Stuff. So.
You make the move, and it's not like he was clearly in front of him, where you can like justify, well, I have the go ahead now. It's like it was very close, and like there's no chance you can say that Perez is ahead of Norris. It's just the FIA has had an interesting week. Start like in qualifying, there was like maybe 3-4 guys in front of Vettel, but Vettel's the one that gets we push back 3 positions on the grid.
Yeah, it was a 3-place grid penalty. Yeah,
and then Alonso is the one that takes that the worst because he was flying in qualifying. So it was a lot of work for the FIA. And after the Lando penalty, you just knew that Perez was going to get the next 2 because it was pretty obvious that if you're getting pushed in the gravel, you're getting a penalty. And for Perez, the trying to overtake Lando in that position was the downfall for his race because he fell back multiple positions and then he had to claw his way back just to try and save some points because he had 10 seconds in penalties. I don't know. I know F1's are brought. Yeah, they said 5. They said 5 on the broadcast, but FIA said 10.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I think the one broadcaster, like was it David Croft? He was like saying the longest time. He was like, no, it's 5 seconds, and then the other broadcaster was like,
whatever was getting relayed to them was different than what the FIA actually said.
Yeah,
because the FIA clearly said 5-second penalty here, and then the second incident 5-second penalty there. Now I don't think the first 2 of those 3 probably shouldn't have been penalties, but that's the way they were going to call it. So I guess you just got to go with it. And the drivers are going to know now, like if you get pushed off in the gravel, the FIA is gonna mark you off, and they're gonna be a little more careful heading into the next weekend.
No, exactly, yeah. But one last thing before we kind of move on to the next topic, or most impressive drivers, that Yuki Tsunoda seemed to have an issue with finding the pit lane. Twice he got penalized for the same thing, was failing to stop before the pit lane entry, pretty much going too fast into the brakes and stuff, and. So I don't know what else to talk about. I guess what can Yuki Tsunoda take from this and learn from this experience to be more careful and stuff to not get penalized? Yeah. Yeah,
it's just weird. And I just realized, speaking of speed pit lane and Yuki Tsunoda, I forgot that I think Lance Stroll also had 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane and pit lane. I think I don't. I think that's what happened too. But Yuki Tsunoda, it's just, I think it's just like a typical like pit lane kind of like situation. So I think it's just like justifiable. The weird one I was trying to figure out was Giovinazzi. I think he's overtaking the safety car line or something like that before he goes.
Yeah, no. Basically, what happened is he was he overtook someone before they had crossed the safety car line. Pretty much they had gone back to. So it was like they were about to come down past turn 10, through like down the main straight, and then pretty much what happened is he just overtook before they like technically are allowed to overtake. That's what happened.
Okay.
But what was interesting is that after like Vettel and who is it? Sorry. Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman. After, I know I just struggled with that, but yeah. So after they had their crash, there was a number of drivers, including Perez as well, along with like Giovinazzi, Sainz, Leclerc, and a bunch of drivers, Pierre Gasly, that all got summoned to the stewards because they failed to slow down during this double yellow, like on the last lap, which should be interesting because it's like, okay, yes, it's a last lap, double yellow. You have to have safety all 71 laps because it's standard across things. They can't be wishy-washy. Like this isn't like another sport where, and again, people don't like that. It's like you either have to be on one side or the other. If you want to let them race, or you can be strict and call everything, but you have to be consistent. Consistency is key as any sport in terms of like officiating any type of like, foul and stuff or any type of penalty. So I think the FIA was potentially like, we haven't yet heard any penalties. It's probably going to be like a post-race penalty. We might see some grid changes, which could affect the drivers, like the Constructors' Championship, especially considering the fact that you have Perez in the name, where Perez is going to finish. Because if Perez was sitting at 6, but then they're all going to drop back, then how is that going to affect other drivers and stuff? Of course, obviously the Mercedes drivers are finishing ahead of Perez, so that doesn't make it any worse in terms of Mercedes. For Red Bull, but I mean, like it does lose some points off of Red Bull, and it does make it a little bit closer in terms of their constructors battle.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a messy day today, I guess. I think it's also like you gotta know that being what the fuck? I forgot what it's called. It's like
steward, being a steward.
Being a steward is not an easy job.
No.
I've seen people because we do sim racing, seen people complaining about it's like there's only 3 of us and there's like 20, 40 of you guys, and we try to like see any incidents that happen. It's really difficult, but I think it just like it shows that it's a bit that the FIA want to be more stern with the rules and make the race more less like incident prone. But there's also so many complications, especially with Perez with Vettel in the qualifying as well as the last lap, which is very interesting to see what's going to turn out. There'll be some that's a bit excessive for sure, but I think it's like if they want to go excessive, they want to go like stern on things, go for it. And it does ruin the race for some of the drivers, especially Perez. Like especially when you find a Perez and Lando, and you see those incidents, you kind of get angry about it too. But like something like Yuki Tsunoda, who's already like not in the top 10 and who got an incident, just kind of like you pour water into the pool kind of thing. So it's bad for the team, but it's not really like it's just like, okay, well that happened. But also I'm still mixed about it. I think it's just like a lot of excessive penalties going on, so that's the reason why we have like weird feelings about these. But sometimes something like last race during Grand Prix, nothing happened. No safety car, no penalties, no big incidents at all, except for like probably like Pierre Gasly broke his Pierre Gasly. But yeah.
No, exactly. But let's move on to our last topic of the day. We're going to talk about most impressive driver. Who is your most impressive driver from the weekend?
Ooh, this weekend I'd probably say Carlos Sainz because Ferrari started terribly in the race, and
yes, indeed,
and he was really like the strategy was amazing. It's 2 hot tires, I think, at the same time. Oh, hot or medium tire, I forgot what the strategy was, but he started in hot, and he lasted like 40 laps in it, and he got the new tire, and he got a pass to overtake Leclerc. He overtake Ricciardo, and both of them get points for the team, which is amazing. And I think with Perez get penalty too, so he's getting to the 5th place, which is awesome for 5th place. So yeah, which is awesome for Sainz. But I think he's probably the most impressive one. I mean, we can talk about Lando Norris.
Lando Norris, Max Verstappen. Like again, there's like
amazing.
But I would go with Lando Norris. I just think that, like, even though he qualified P2, but I think from a weekend standpoint, like race and weekend, he just had a very strong weekend. He's really comfortable in that car. He's proving to be a future world champion. Yeah. And I think that if he is in the right car and McLaren can get to the right development in 2022 and other cars are struggling, he can like win races. I think he has the pace. Like the McLaren is very fast, and I would expect even at Silverstone, at their home Grand Prix, technically shared with Mercedes, but we never know. Like it's Silverstone, it's Mercedes home Grand Prix. That's really the truth about it. Along with Lewis Hamilton, I wouldn't be surprised if, he picks up a race win or another podium, because he's actually the only driver to score points in every single race this season. You can think about that. Like that's 9 races, 9 consecutive point finishes, which is like some people will say, oh, that's not hard. That is very hard to do, considering the fact that Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen have not done that, because they've both been outside the points through.
He was like Perez last season, because most of his he got points for every races. It's just like he got a bit of cheating, just because of he has a few incidents that because of the car, not because of him, and also Nico Hülkenberg kind of replacing him.
Right.
But he was in the go-ahead list. But yeah,
I think it was sorry to cut you off, but I think it was about a 13 or 11 consecutive point finishes that he had. I think it was last year. He was a big stretch there.
Yeah, that was a big impressive stat from Perez last season. But also, even Lewis Hamilton kind of after a huge crazy chase with Lando, even his driving was impressive on the radio, which is shows a lot. Lando Norris has been improving a lot, but he does make Ricciardo has been nervous. But hopefully Ricciardo can bounce back next year. But he was really solid. I have absolutely
100% agree. Alrighty, that is going to do it for our show, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to your YouTube channel and check out theintermissionsports.com for more content. We'll probably be taking a break for a little bit, because obviously Silverstone doesn't come up till the 18th, so we have about a week break in between and stuff, but there'll definitely still be lots of content coming out, so keep an eye out for theintermissionsports.com. Other than that, have a nice Sunday.
All right.